Oh, production was. There we go. All right. You saw what I just did or not?
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, welcome back to the Codcast. I know majority of you guys will be watching this on YouTube, but we also are going to do it live this season as well. So that'll be on twitch.tv/nameless and twitch.tv/study when he decides to go live. We'll figure that out eventually. But welcome back. First episode of season, Jay. I've been very excited for this. We've been trying to make this happen. I know you are a dad now, so it's difficult to schedule time with you, but welcome back, brother.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be back, bro. You know, I am a dad, but I've been a dad ever since last year. You know, it's just tougher now because she can actually do things, so I have to be a little bit more mobile. But like you said, bro, we've been trying to record this episode for probably like 2 weeks now, ever since the season was about to begin, and obviously since the week one already went through, we were trying to record it. But finally, we got an opportunity to sit and talk some COD. So I hope you guys enjoy.
Yeah, it should be a good time. And we've had, I mean, there's a lot to talk about, obviously. It's probably better this way, the more that I think about it, simply because now we've had some time to let things settle in. You know what I mean? Like, we let these teams play a few matches. And I guess start things off, like, so far, dude, I've been just enjoying watching Modern Warfare 3. Honestly.
Oh, yeah.
It's a breath of fresh air. It really is after last year.
Nah, I completely agree with you, bro. Like, the gunplay is good. Like, the movements is good. The maps are great. At least they look visually great. And everybody basically knows the maps. We know that they're good competitive. Just got to figure it out as we go through, because obviously these maps were meant for hard points. So a couple spawns are still got to be switched up around. But I feel like overall the game is fun. It's visually attractive. And I'm having a really good time with it.
Yeah. Honestly, visually, the game looks great. Another big thing for me is, like, one, search is pretty darn good.
Oh, yeah.
Control in years past hasn't been the most fun to watch.
Yeah. It's all like, you know, up in the air juggling. You know, we either get a good one or we get a bad one. And
yeah, and I will say, playing Control in this game, at least so far, a little bit stressful, right? This is what it is. But watching it, it's been pretty lit.
Yeah,
I think so, at least. I mean, high rise is like spawn traps, this and that, but like Karachi controls are legitimately like very exciting. Like, when people are fighting back and forth over at Cafe, I think it's like, it makes for good viewing experience. Like today,
it's because you get that close red spawn. But then you see, like, if you don't get that close red spawn, you spawn it back behind diner and they're all the way pushed out junk. Like, you're basically in hell. You saw OpTic do that today.
Yeah, OpTic is that. I think the only person who set up like the pure spawn blender was Attach. Remember?
Yeah.
That was
on the offensive side. Yeah,
dude. By like stage 3, maybe even stage 2, we're gonna see some demonic spawn traps in Control.
I agree.
All right, let's sort of like plan, I guess, for today is like, let's go like team by team. Like, let's go over the standings, talk about their performance so far. Yeah, and like talk about the construction of the roster. I mean, there's so much to talk about. It's our first episode back. Let's start the things off here at the bottom. How about that?
Okay.
Get the bad out of the way, then we'll get to the good. So, Boston Breach. Obviously, today, things don't go their way. You're starting off 0-3. This is their split. Like, this is the Boston Major coming up. I'll let you lead things off, but so far for Boston, what have you seen, and like, what are your concerns as well? Let's open that up.
I think for the first week, like when this Boston team was first formed, I thought like, all right, this is going to be a one of those teams that got to mesh, got to get their S&D down and packed, and then eventually throughout the season goes, they would get better at respawn. And it was basically on perfect display. They had a tough week one matchups. They played Atlanta. That's never going to be easy. And then their other match was against Surge, who were 2-0 undefeated until today when they played OpTic. So both of those matchups were a little bit more difficult. I thought Seattle week one was a more well-polished team, and they showed it versus Boston. And then the series where Boston played against Atlanta, they should have potentially went up 4-0 before they even got to that game 5. So they could have won the first 2 maps. So I feel like this is a team who obviously drawed a really tough schedule in the beginning, but I do think that they have the ability to compete with the best teams when they're all clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah, that is what I was going to bring up. The main thing, like what you just said, clicking on all cylinders, like you gotta think like mostly, if not all, like the top teams, like they made upgrades within their roster. You know what I mean? And like for Boston, when I saw their roster moves, I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, you got Slasher and Priesta, right? Like you got some vets who have won world championships, have won championships, and have been at the top, right? So you feel like you kind of got away with a really good team here, and you retain some young talent like Snoopy. Capsule has been really good. And then you also, I believe they have Kremp on the bench still as well. So like they have a good roster. it just hasn't translated to early success in this game. Crunch moments at the end of these maps seemingly always getting away from them. And then today, like the first 2 games, I was willing to kind of give them like that leeway. You know what I mean? But today I saw some like really concerning stuff, at least from what I saw. Like if my team gets broken on Palace like that, Jay, I'm gonna be real pissed. Like those are things like those are things like Jay, we look at each other after the match, we're like, nah man, like that legitimately just cannot happen.
Especially when you're giving up Treehouse about 50 seconds into it. Like you have already someone right the street posted up thinking about the next hill. And then when you rotate that early and you get broken within the first 15 to 20 seconds, that eventually is what breaks your whole game.
Yeah.
And that's why you saw the score start to spiral out of control. Eventually they got to what, like the 3rd rotation hard points or towards the very end of the 2nd rotation?
Well, I mean, it's not even it's like
back,
it's like what's
late at that point.
It's like what led up to that moment too. Because if you remember, they had P2, right? Thieves broke P2 from the front, right? Spawned them back Palace. So then what happens? Well, Thieves get rotation P3. Yeah, bathroom. They lose that. And then it's like that cycle, right? Like when you have initial and you're trying to break, and then that other team, you end up breaking, the other team spawns that new, right? It's like the tumbling effect. The really, really good teams, like they think past that. You know what I mean? So like for me, that's why that was a bit concerning. I recognize the score was still within 60 points. And then we get to that S&D. So concern number one was
the score was only within 60 points because of the very end.
Exactly.
They chained a treehouse and it was a miracle. They had to get all the right kills at the right time. They should have lost that game at like 200 points.
Yeah, so that's concern number one. The Palace thing, some of the other stuff that we just discussed, and then number 2, like panic button type thing, is being up in that S&D. I mean, come on, man. Like we got to grab the rails there and like hold on. Like you know how invasion goes, Jay. Like when a team gets desperate, they're gonna try to get like cheesy first bloods, push up. It's exactly what they were doing. Joe Deceives got a first blood in red, like the day 1 red door peak. And then he got a first blood, like the day 1 hit through Cubby. You see him on the cross, kill you at bottom treehouse. Those things can't happen either. So to me, that was a breakdown. What are your thoughts on the search and destroy?
Nah, the search and destroy in the beginning of it, it was flawless, bro. They went up 4-0. And then they got 1v3'd by Dan Ghosty with 13 seconds left at the A site when both of them are near the area. To allow him to plant that bomb is, first of all, a mistake. To not be in a situation to play a trade with your teammate is a mistake.
Yeah.
But the fact that you lose that round and then let it to continue to spiral out of control as the map continues to go forward, I'm pretty sure they were up 4-0 and they lost 6 rounds straight. Like, that just can't happen. Like, I know Capsule was finding a lot of success early on with his first bloods. Same thing with Snoopy. Like, they were both taking off. They both earned cruise missiles in the beginning of the game. How the hell do you lose that search and destroy? That was like a complete breakdown. And it just was due to the fact that once LA was down 0-4 and they saw Dan Ghosty get that 1v3, they're like, all right, cool. Like, we just got our confidence back. Let's just start hitting shit. Let's just start doing it together. We're just going to start delusionally challenge, getting first bloods. And slowly but surely, they started to pick apart the setups, and Boston never had an answer back, bro.
Never had an answer,
That was a complete breakdown.
Yeah, so they end up winning the first blood battle on that map, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 4. 3 come from Joe Deceives, late game effort as well, getting those first bloods. And then Dan Ghosty, 2,200 damage.
Oh yeah.
Didn't lead the lobby, but was very close. Next up was Capsule, but ends up getting the 1v3, which I would probably say gives him MVP of this series. Although Afro and Cammy played incredibly well throughout the series. Mainly Afro was the guy that I was highlighting because I believe he had like a 0.7, like, but not just the number. Like he was 11 and 30, and then like 12 and 25 in the respawns from the series prior. So for Thieves, I was really worried about them. I thought Breach was going to come in, whoop that butt, and get this W, but it didn't happen. So a little shocking. Credit to them and what they've been able to do in this break. But Boston, looking concerning. Jay, you think they can still make winners bracket?
Sitting at 0-3. Who's the next 2 matches?
All right, so Boston Breach has Toronto Ultra. That's tough. Then you got LAG.
Okay.
And you got Heretics. And then you got New York Sub-Honors. Yeah.
All right, so I can see a 2-2 split there, but I don't think that's enough to make lose.
I mean nothing sounds easy.
Yeah, nah. Like the way every team is playing, New York obviously is great. LAG, even though like they're sitting at 0-2, they put up a fight in their last match. Like they was cooking in that last match.
Bro, has Boston won like S&D yet?
No. They lost 2 to Atlanta. Then they got 3 of them following to Seattle. They didn't beat them in a search and destroy, and then they lost them today. Yeah.
Yeah, they haven't won S&D. All right, so yeah, this next series is all about Search going up against Toronto. Toronto lost that S&D to LAG, so we'll see. All right, but let's keep it pushing. The Minnesota Rokkr. All right, thoughts on this team? First of all, the construction of the roster. Second of all, on their performance so far, because for Minnesota Rokkr, I know they had the game against Vegas, yeah. And then is that the only game we saw? We saw them play Vegas and Texas.
They played two. Well, Vegas was a difficult one for them, but then obviously going up against Texas, like that was Texas on the bounce back. You wasn't gonna catch them lacking twice. I do like this Minnesota Rokkr roster. You know, it's very young. Like, I feel like they have the ability to like be around that top 6 form. Like, we know what Big Wake is all about. That guy can slay with the best. Accuracy, is a great leader. He's able to direct the troops and lead them to success. And then Vivid and Linz. Vivid is a guy that you really had a lot of high praise on. And when I started to watch his gameplay, I really loved like the way he was able to put himself in certain positions, stay alive, and manipulate the game a certain way for his team to find success. But at least as of for me, watching him recently, bro, he plays with like the pace of like all these fast SMGs. His old duo in Nero is like they're the same guy. Just one has more of a brain in certain situations than the other. But when it comes down to these close range 50-50 gunfights, that's where Vivid, in my opinion, has to be able to win a majority of those for this team to find a lot of success. Because in that OpTic Texas match, he was so up close and personal. He had moments where he could have been the game changer, but he doesn't get that kill up close, that 50-50 gunfight, and eventually the rotations is off. You're not in a certain position. Now you're challenging a lot more difficult gunfights.
Yeah, sure.
So I feel like this Minnesota Rokkr roster, they have the talent. It just comes down to the day, on the day, are you going to be on point to compete with the best?
So that leads me to ask you, like, it's just one of those teams I look at and I'm like, okay, kind of have the elements of what you need to be a successful COD team, but so do all these other rosters, and they all kind of pack the punch, and they're looking very good. So where does Minnesota get an edge? You know what I'm saying? Like, where do they get their edge? Is it search and destroy? Because it doesn't traditionally look like a great search team. It's going to be tough. Like, they're just going to have to be very solid. They're going to have to put in a lot of work. I mean, we talk about S&D in their last series, that performance was abysmal. I mean, I'm looking at it right now as the 6-1, 6-2, sort of where we took that narrative and ran with Legion about how good they were, the SMGs in that series, and the S&Ds in particular. In the first blood battle, I mean, we're talking 7-2 on map 5, 2-3, 4-3 on map 2, so not as bad, but it was a 6-1. They were getting picked apart by the SMGs, Jay. Like, you remember that that invasion, or that Skid Row, excuse me? I'm looking at it right now, 6-2. What happened every round? They were just jumping up top. Standy was going on top of the balcony. Nero was running around doing 360s, finding kills. Like
that's yeah. The fact that they were allowing them to do the same offensive push on a map like Skid Row, where there's only 2 plays to come through. It's either they're jumping up on boxes, challenging your top plat, or
banging out tunnel.
Yeah. That's it. That's all there is. And they did the same play every time, bro. Like, you got to be able to change that up, bro.
I mean, we literally played one wager, and then we were like, okay, we have to do this every round. Like, we just have, and you have to dial it in. So for them, I will say Awakening had a way better performance in this series. What was the stats? Yeah, in their bounce, but in some of the respawns, he was playing better, I think it was. Yeah, I mean, for him, he's gonna have to be a superstar on this team, right?
Yeah,
like he's got to be. It's an AR's world. Granted, we have only seen 2 games so far from Minnesota, but they haven't shown like excellence anywhere yet. But like, what I expect of a team like that is Wake to be a monster, and Lamar to sort of be the guy that gets Wake to the next level. We've been talking about it for a long time. Like, Big Wake just needs a leader. You know what I mean? Like, he needs a duo that can help him take the pressure off and get him to play less for kills and sort of more team oriented. So I'm not going to harp on Wake's like stats if he's off a little bit until I see the final product, until I see this team on land. Because I could definitely see this being a team that finds a lot of success in a land environment.
That statement, I can't really agree with it. I feel like these players they know what it's like to play on land. They know what it's like to compete at the highest level. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the talent that you have on the team. Like I said, accuracy, he's going to be the leader of the team. He's going to be the guy directing the troops. But everybody else has to be able to slay up to par with the Abizis, the Simps, all these guys. You got to be able to slay with the best. And when you're looking at this team, if they're not doing it through search and destroys, because a hard point is going to seem like versus all these top talent teams versus the OpTics versus the New Yorks, they're going to struggle in hard points versus them. So for me, I feel like this team is going to be a 2-3-5 team. And then if you can get to steal a hard point, that's when everybody outslaying, outperforming, out rotating. The game is just a lot easier for them. I
See,
think that
we see it
they
differently.
just gotta be. Yeah, I think this is a 2-3-5 team in my opinion.
I see it differently. I mean, I think there's going to have to be a sound hardpoint team. Typically, Lamar's teams are very fundamentally sound and they can go toe to toe hardpoint, but he also typically
talent.
has really good SMGs. Yeah, I mean, but you can get out talented and win games, and you can be out talented and win games in Modern Warfare 3. It's how it is. The maps are set up like that. I mean, you got Terminal, you got Karachi where you get punished spawn really, really far out. You know what I mean? Like, there's just maps that like that can play in your favor. Just play the game the correct way, and that's another like that's. It's easy to say that. It is not easy to do that, right? Like,
no, not at all.
Accuracy and Awakening have to be on the same page, right? And that pressure has to be there. Like, you know, Lamar's not flying in first. And you know Big Wake probably ain't flying in first. So it's going to be difficult for them to find that chemistry as the season goes on. It's a tough ask when you look at the rest of the rosters side by side with them. But they can win games. And they have the first match tomorrow up against the Heretics. So their outlook, Jay, they have they're 0-2. They have Heretics, and then they have New York, Royal Ravens, and LAG. So not a bad.
None of the other matches really matter. Tomorrow, the match tomorrow versus Heretics is going to tell us exactly who this team is. Because Heretics today, they got thrown some adversity to them. They came back and they got the job done. Meadows had a phenomenal series today. Called that guy the European Abizi. I mean, the Spanish Abizi. But when they playing against that team tomorrow, this is where you're going to be able to see where you truly stand, because that they have fundamentals down play, but then you also have players who go out there and try to make plays happen, and that's what the Meadows of the world do. And they also have players on their side as well with Vivid. So that matchup between him and Vivid is going to be a game changer. If you're not winning those one-on-ones because they're both going to be the SMGs early off the rotation, that's going to be the game changer.
Well, it seems like Heretics have set themselves away from the bottom of the pack, so we'll learn a little bit more tomorrow on that matchup.
Well, they've played, they haven't really had the toughest, you know? They
True.
played Carolina in their first one. You even heard Vico say it in his interview. I can't believe he said that after one game.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
hey, man,
really
talk your ish. They look good. All right, next one, LAG, sitting at 0-2 with a 3-6 map count. 2 of those map wins came against the New York Subliners in the best series of the year thus far. I'm going to pull up the stats here for that match, but what are your thoughts on LAG? Because they did look pretty dang good. I mean, I feel like a lot of us are writing LAG off, and probably currently still are, just because of the situation with the organization and the roster and all this stuff. And it just didn't seem like it was going to be a team that was going to be formidable in any aspect, but they really were versus New York. I mean, they should have won that.
In my opinion, what we saw out of LG versus Toronto, that was just a respawn breakdown. That was just them probably nervous going up against a team like Toronto, who are so well polished. The word around the street is they're one of the top dogs, and they just weren't ready for that match. But then they come in versus the champs of last year, and they realistically should have been up 4-0. Every single map was close. Probably not besides that game 5. But when you think about that, this is a team who everyone's counting out right now, because when you look at the names on this roster, it's probably not what you expect to see if you're trying to win championships. But that doesn't matter to any of these players' minds. They're going to go out there and leave it all out on the table. And I feel like that New York match was on full display, that even though we're not the names that you guys probably want to see, we're going to go out there and put on a show just because this is what we want to do, and we're happy that we're in this situation. So I take it with a grain of salt that they're sitting at 0-2. Tough first match, tough second match, but I feel like this team is great. They have the ability to go out there and sneak wins. I feel like search and destroy for them is beautiful in this game, and that's 2 out of the 5 modes that we have in the best of 5. And if they're consistently also winning their controls because they like themselves a little bit of high rise, like, this team has a chance. 2-3-5 with stealing a hard point. I can see them definitely improving as the year goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they can be that much of a threat to the top teams.
Not to win, but like if they can wake up on a day and need to upset a team, so they almost did that versus New York. They should have done.
Like, they got better than their roster last year. Like, it's better. It's better. Also, I think another big thing was like Diamond Khan might have been needed, right? Remember they brought those guys up last year and he couldn't get a visa. It seems like he might have been needed. I mean, the first series, not a great performance. This series though, versus New York, he was popping off. I'm looking at it right here. He had 17,300 damage. Yeah, like 11 in that S&D. They should have won the search and destroy. Do yourself a favor and go back and watch this match because it was amazing. But that round 11, I mean, they had numbers, right? Kismet fell off the map. They ended up losing it. The hard point, they completely broke down. Like right there, you got to concede all of P1, rotate to Cafe on Karachi. You just have to. So just some things that they need to learn from. But yeah, for LAG, definitely surprising us there. But it seems like a team, Jay, that's going to be like they're really good one day, bad the next, really good, like an inconsistent team. And the odds are kind of stacked against them. But that being said, I mean, they're 0-2. Their upcoming schedule, they have Thieves, Atlanta FaZe, Boston Breach, and Minnesota Rokkr. So, I mean, you're avoiding like, I mean, you got to play Atlanta FaZe, but you're avoiding like the top notch teams for the most part. Like, it doesn't seem they don't have a match against OpTic. They don't have a match against Toronto. So LAG, I mean, sneakily could get 3 wins here and find themselves in like a situation where, you know, maybe teetering with a tiebreaker. I don't know.
Potentially. But
the next match is incredibly important versus LA Thieves because that's another bubble game. Another team that's right above them in the standings.
0-2.
Exactly, right? So you need, if they lose this match, they're starting in lower bracket, right? And that could potentially compromise your season. Honestly, it really can. So for them, that's a very, very big game. And from what we saw of Thieves, it ain't going to be easy. Definitely ain't going to be easy. Yeah, I'm not sure what to expect from LAG all year. If they're just sort of going to be like that upset team, or if they'll be.
I just think like when you know how it is in the beginning of the year, certain people learn the game a certain way, but then as we get in the later half of the season, towards the very end of the season, when everybody starts to play the game the same, that's when I feel like the game is going to be difficult for them because if everyone's playing the same way, if you're not doing these things or you're simply just getting out talented in certain situations, that's what's going to make your team struggle.
All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about Los Angeles Thieves. First 2 series, not great. No hardpoint wins, no search and destroy wins. Today, balling out of control. I mean, I'm gonna load up the stats for you guys, but I mean, these guys were frying, bro. Like the whole desk and everybody that I saw on the timeline was predicting them to lose this series. What did they do? They came in and destroyed them, bro. The comeback, we already touched on it. We talked about Boston a little bit, but I mean, sky's the limit, right? Like this is, when I was looking at it, you could tell me what you thought. I thought either Boston or Thieves were going to be in the mix. One of these teams is going to be a top 6 team consistently. And so far, I mean, I gotta say, it's looking like it's going to be Thieves.
Why are you saying that based off of their win today?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have to, right? Like these are obviously early hot takes. We're going to learn more. We haven't seen a ton of matches, but Boston Breach 0-3. LA Thieves looking good. That was just my thought when I was looking at these 2 teams. I'm like, okay, they can compete. They have some players who have had success in the past. The top teams seem like they have a little bit more talent, but these teams seem like they'll be threats to those teams at some point in the season. And for Thieves, with the coaching staff that they have, the turnaround from last week, I saw a lot of improvement today, man. A lot. Some very coordinated breaks. You know, we talked about the breakdown from Boston. In order for a team to break down, some great plays have to be made on the other side. And Thieves made those great plays today. So what are your thoughts on them?
I think in today's match versus Boston, obviously everything was going right. You start off a hard point, basically up 220 to 80. All you need is 30 seconds to close out that game. Great. You get it done, even though it gets a little bit scary towards the end. You still get the job done. Cool. And with this young roster, I feel like this is a team who needs that map one momentum. With a guy like Dan Ghosty, who's very communicative, but and also very hyped for his team because you got to imagine he's giving energy to this roster. So is Joe Deceives. These 2 guys who are on their sophomore year, they're trying to go out there and win, and getting that map 1 underneath their belt allows them to have confidence going into that map number 2 and also further into the series. But map number 1 was great. The map number 2, though, is what I really enjoyed out of this LA roster because at that point, they were losing round after round after round, down 4-0. Now you leave Dan Ghosty in a 1v3, odds stacked against you, but somehow, some way he's able to clutch the round. And as soon as he clutches that round, they probably all look at each other and they go, yo, why the fuck are we playing like pussies? Like, why are we just like not running down the middle of the map? Why are we not taking advantage in certain situations? Because Capsule's sliding around left and right. He's putting himself in aggressive chows. We can get that first blood and then take it onto him. And that's exactly what they did. And with such a young team, too, because the oldest guy on this roster is Cammy, and Cammy's the vet. You got like Afro, who's in what, year 3 or year 4, and then you got 2 sophomores. So these young guys rally together and just threw the playbook out the window. Let's just go with the shit on the fly.
Yeah.
And it worked out perfectly for them to go up 2-0, hit the commercial break, and then eventually come back to complete the 3-0. That's what I took away from this series, is the fact that they were able to ice up, throw whatever it out, and then use all their teamwork together in the middle of that search and destroy to bring it back and then eventually win the series.
That's a really good sign in young guys, being able to like trust each other, because you know that goes, right? Like when a team is, when you feel like you're just slow setups and that stuff's not working, you gotta be able to like trust your teammates to be able to be like, yo, I'm gonna go out here and try to get this first blood. So clearly Joe Deceives has the green light. They have trust in each other, they believe in each other, and allowed each other to make those plays, because if he goes out there and dies, right, like he doesn't want to go out there, try to make that play, end up dying, and then be scolded by his team for doing so. You know what I mean? So that is something, being willing to take the risk, and then trusting each other enough to not like get mad at each other if things go south. It seems like they were able to make that decision today, which is a high level adjustment and leads to a victory, right?
Especially versus a team like Boston too, bro. Like Boston and no slouches. They got Slash over there who broke that CDL S&D record last year. They got some great S&D players over there.
Yeah.
The fact they were able to do that to them, oh yeah, that's typical.
Yeah, so for Thieves, let's take a look at their upcoming schedule as well. Sitting at 1-2, so that was a massive victory. They have LAG next. Big opportunity to tie things up, a team that's below them. If they lose that game, it's going to be a world of pain. But I think they should be good getting that W. They have LAG, and then they have Toronto, then New York, and then Royal Ravens. So very well, this next match could determine if they're winners or losers, right? So this is potentially, no, I'm not even saying potentially. This is the most important game of their split right now, I'd say. To just make up for lost ground in their first two matches. So we will get to see that match Sunday at 4:30 p.m. A massive game for winners bracket implications, as we know that pretty much determines how your tournament's going to go. If you're in losers, it's going to be very difficult. All right, next team to talk about, sitting in 8th place with a 6-8 map record, the Vegas Legion. Interesting team. Off the rip, I'm just going to say Purge has not been that great just yet. Gonna need to see a little bit more of him. Today we saw a little bit more. Let me pull up the stats from the match. But the last series was just not ideal. I mean, they got reverse swept on.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, it's just tough. I mean, it's, once again, we have to give some of these teams that have just made these rosters like a little bit of grace early on in the season. But this is a team with some vets and some players who've been in the league now for a little bit. You're not expecting to get comeback down like that, or ninja diffused, things of that nature. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Now, when I look at this Vegas roster, they come out, they get their very first win, and then they get reverse sweep by Carolina. The reverse sweep by Carolina, that's the one that's like really tough to swallow, because they were in control of that whole series. Besides probably the map 3, they basically got destroyed on invasion control. And then even the map number 4, like they had the ability to almost win the game and then choked it towards the very end. But then when you get to that game 5, like this is a team who I was expecting to be great, do the damn thing. You go up 5-2, 5-3, and then you choke it. Like,
I mean, we've seen it a couple times now.
Yeah, that's just unacceptable. All right, cool. So now we move forward. Where that match is behind us. We're now 1-1. We walk in today going up against Heretics. Map number 1 was beautiful.
Beautiful.
It was absolutely
great rotations.
Textbook. I'm sitting there watching the young guns, like narrow, like the way he's playing right now, like he's got nothing but confidence. I don't know if he still got sound EQ on, but that guy is balling out there on the map.
I doubt it.
Right. So then you go there, you take the first map, then you're going into a search and destroy on invasion where you literally just played it back in your mind. Like, we were just up 5-3. We cannot let this come back. They do the same thing, and I really do love the way that they play the setups. It's always about taking mid-courtyard control. You allow Standy to just roam around red, switch up his corners left and right, and it works out in the beginning. But then when teams start to realize what you're doing and slowly pick you guys apart, someone tries to go for a hero play, like through a deep flank or something like that, and eventually he's either too slow or too fast. And
well, Jay, what I would say to that is like, well, I loved what I saw in the adjustments today for their, not in the game, but from map to map. Like the invasion that they played up against Carolina, if you remember, they kept going red and like making plays with the subs, and it was working out well. They ended up losing, whatever. This game on offense, they were going B a lot, right? And it was working. And you saw they even drew all of Heretics to go towards B Street. But like, when you get into that situation where like you're up and then you know what team's going to be because you can see the cross, you cannot rely on a guy sitting back street to like get a miracle shot and a guy crossing Coop, or a Standy to flank. You can't rely on that.
Yeah,
You can't rely on
because
they 2 rounds.
Even with Standy flank, you saw when he flanked that final round, bro.
Yeah,
I
you
thought
can't.
he found the timing. Like the guy was sitting in mannequin, he didn't even turn around. You could have literally did anything but shoot a guy long distance. Like you had a sniper in your hand, bro. Like you was playing with the dually pistols before they just got murdered. Like, nah, you got that SMG.
You know
in your
what?
hand,
Because
put yourself in a
Jay,
better
like
position.
they're gonna watch that and be very mad because like you're literally choosing to not use teamwork in that scenario. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because when Standy flanks like that, it's like if he doesn't find the kill, you see the product of it. Like with the guy that's sitting in the back, his job is to literally not die. And what happens if that guy doesn't die, you automatically lose the round if that's your play, right? So you see what Standy's doing. Like he's long flanking. I think he got so frustrated one time. He's top blue. He started trying to kill a guy with a rival from top blue all the way to bomb. It's like, dude, like you're not gonna find him if he doesn't want to be found. He's not going to get found, and they know that it's attached back there. He's not gonna dive out and get a 2-piece. You know what I mean? So for me, that was just like, I don't know, like strategy wise, it just didn't make much sense. And I was very excited for these guys when it came to search and destroy. So that was concerning. But for Vegas, man, they have to be good at S&D, Jay. They have to.
Oh,
they have to win all their
100%. Now that's 2 chokes for this team. Like both on Invasion up 5-3 last week. Today up 5-2. They just let it go. I don't get it.
And then Purge, I mean, today was a little bit better, but like the series versus the Ravens, I mean, 0.5. Maybe he was nervous. I mean, a literal 0.5. Like I think he went 7-22 in the map 4, 11-23. Like
in my opinion, for this game, though, stats don't really mean shit to me because this game, in certain situations, if you're set up for full 60s, you're not going to have any engagements that are coming at you. So your stats going to be the same for the next 60 seconds, especially if you're a team holding Palace. Like
100%,
so
you're going to get in the blender.
Completely out the way. He had a 0.5, but they choked the series versus Carolina up 5-3 in the search and destroy.
And
that's what we got to take. It's just the trope. I think this young man, he has a lot of building to do. Obviously, people expect this guy to just instantly jump in and be like a game changer. Nah, you got to go through leaps and bumps. You got to go through all these different things to make you better, to mold you into the player that you want to be. And I feel like him having this early mini success with many mishaps in the beginning of the season is only going to allow him to be more confident going forward. Like, remember that shot here versus Clayster across?
Oh, he was beaming. He had some of those today too. I just think you need a little bit more out of Purge, like out of your rookie. I think that's what they were hoping for with this roster. It's like you got Standy Nero who can make plays, but you know this is going to be an AR's world a lot of the times. And you got Attach who's like he's kind of like an island player. I mean, a lot of the times you see those guys making plays in SD and Attach is sitting back island, or in the respawn he's holding like a push through, sitting up top P2 on Skid Row, things of that nature. Purge is gonna have he has the green light, like he's going to. Especially going forward, so he's gonna have to be that difference maker, and it's gonna take some time. He's a rookie, so definitely agree with your sentiment there. And context will matter with stats in a lot of these series. Like some maps, if you're the guy in the hill, you're not gonna be seeing that action, and then when y'all don't have control, you're gonna be getting put in the blender. It's just how it is sometimes. But their schedule going forward, Jay, tomorrow, the Vegas Legion, they will be playing New York Subliners. Not easy.
Tough. That's tough.
After that, they have Atlanta FaZe.
One thing that I wanted to say about this Vegas Legion squad, from watching them last week to watching them this week, is that I feel like last week they were a lot more in the mix with a player like Nero and with a player like Standy, who should always be in your face, flying in, getting these trades. That's what they were doing a lot last week. I feel like today, watching them, there was a lot of people just hitting routes. You see Attach doing in control. You see Standy was doing it a lot in the hard points as well. I feel like today was all about, all right, let me just go try to flip these spawns. Nah, we need to get mixy, boys. Like that's when they were at their best. And I feel like once they get back to that, and because that's going to allow Standy to keep him in the sling, allow him to work alongside Nero. And then that's what opens up the lanes for their ARs to start playing slow. So I feel like a little bit less route running and a little bit more, flooding into that motherfucker.
Well,
and you're gonna
listen,
be all right.
Jay, they got Atlanta and New York, so it ain't going to be easy.
That's tough. Yeah,
if you can go 1-1.
Not versus them.
You can go 1-1. That's a dub. All right. So, and remember, we're gonna have like 3 weeks off after this, so people have time to figure stuff out. All right. Next team, talk about Carolina Royal Ravens. Got absolutely cooked in their first series by the Heretics, and then they go in and they win their next series versus the Vegas Legion in a reverse sweep comeback where Gwyn stole the show to me. I still think we just haven't seen enough of Royal Ravens just yet, just because the first match was so quick. But Gwyn seems like he's going to be real good.
Yeah, that's the only thing I want to touch on. Like you said, we haven't really seen much from this squad. They got 3-0 by Heretics. That's a tough loss. Then the reverse sweep versus Vegas, which probably shouldn't have gone their way. So it's only been 2 matches for them. But the one highlight for me that's been consistent has been Gwyn. That guy, it doesn't matter what he has. Rival 9, MCW, he's putting on a clinic. So if you
He's
can
good.
get the other guys to step up or at least play alongside him, because from what I heard throughout this whole offseason, the guy who was really turning head was Real. And I feel like Real hasn't been Real in the map yet since I've watched him in the CDL. He probably had like one good map, but I'm expecting him and Gwyn to be those guys who are going to allow Clay and Godorex to slow play, because Clay likes to play a lot faster with this team. But if your SMGs aren't getting kills, Clay's most likely going to be getting slammed too. And that needs to be the success. These young guns need to be able to carry these old guys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think if those guys are playing aggressive, keeping the energy up and finding kills, they'll have a lot. That sounds like such like hard hitting analysis.
I know. Yeah, right?
It's so true. At least in this team's respect, because like you know exactly what you're getting out of Godorex
100%.
every single time. Like the guy he's a vet at this point. He's been waiting for this opportunity, and when we were watching him play, like he's always in the right spot. He's always at the tank heady when we were watching the invasion. He's always up top getting those kills on rotations. We saw Clay having a little bit of fun. He pulled out the SMG a couple of times in that search and destroy. But I think one thing I will say is I would like to see less of the risk taking by Clay. Early round, I think he was getting blown up by the car, trying to push the street. He was getting beamed across the map. Let the other guys kind of like I think the younger guys should probably have that green light to be the guys out there trying to be the difference maker, and Clay maybe stick to the fundies a little bit. But I just think in that series, Clay wanted to win so bad going up against Legion and Standy. But yeah, we need to see a little bit more from them. Let's see what their schedule's looking like. Real Ravens, Toronto Ultra. That will tell us a ton about both those teams, honestly.
Yeah.
And they play the last match tomorrow, Jay, and then they play the first match Sunday. They might go to bed heated.
So they play Toronto and OpTic.
Yeah, like they might go to bed having nightmares and then wake up daydreaming about hell.
Yeah, and getting chokeslammed back into it.
Because they're going to go up against Toronto. That's a tough one. It's never easy. And then they have OpTic, who are hitting their stride in the middle of the stage right now. So, hey, man, I'm going to just leave our talks about my talks about Carolina at bay right now, because I'm going to learn everything I need to know right there.
I think the one thing that I do want to say though about Carolina is that even with Clay getting first blooded, the series that they just had does wonders for rookies. Like when you're able to complete a reverse sweep in your very first series of the CDL, and you're one of the guys who helped or at least dominated your way to that happening, like you best believe, like Clay was sitting there, feet kicked up that game 5.
Yeah,
the young boys did it. So going forward, that confidence is going to be installed in them, and they'll be able to carry that on. It's all about building it from here on out.
Absolutely. All right, so we talked about Carolina, their future schedule, what we're hoping. Now let's talk about Toronto Ultra. Now they've had one game, right, versus LAG. And what we saw from LAG versus New York was very typical, right? So if that's the same LAG that was playing against Toronto, then Toronto might be a force, bro. Because they looked unreal. I mean, they did lose that high rise. I believe it was 6-4. Zero concerns on my part when it comes to search and destroy for this team. I know that they'll be good at that game mode. I just know it. At some point, they will figure it out. It could be this next match. But they look real good. And Envoy, talking about the construction of this team, Jay, like, Hixie's great. Amazing player. I actually think he deserves to still be in the league. But Envoy is sort of like the same player, but a little bit of level up. Maybe the rarest type of player in COD. Like,
I don't want to say it with disrespect, but like it's a pack a punch.
Yeah, it is.
Like it is what it is.
Yeah,
guy's the world champion.
I mean, I think that's like the rarest player in COD. A very skilled, even keeled, objective minded, talented SMG player who is also good at search and destroy. That's like the hardest player to find ever. So for Toronto, I mean, there really ain't too much to talk about other than
I was gonna say that, bro. They ain't really much to say, man.
They're scary, bro.
Toronto, they are scary as hell on paper. What they did to LAG, at least in those respawns, everything was textbook. We were talking all throughout this offseason. Oh, sub base is about to be insane for hard points. So, but keep in mind, the spawns ain't even changed yet, and they were able to wax them so bad they beat about 150 on sub base. They lose a search and destroy. That's all cool. You're gonna polish that going forward. That's the mode that you have to get better with time. But everything else, bro, I ain't got no worries.
And Scrap didn't even have to go off, bro. And he's nasty at this
but
game. I've been watching his stream.
Disgusting,
Yeah,
bro.
he's still unreal. He's still unbelievable. Yeah, very, very scary team. We'll spend more time talking about them in the future episodes. They've only had one game. But yeah, Toronto Ultra, man, they're gonna be in that discussion for sure. No slouch. Obviously, we know how the last season resulted, getting smoked in the finals. They had to go make a change, and best believe they've been in the lab. The upcoming schedule for them. Let's take a look. Carolina Royal Ravens, Boston Breach, Seattle Surge, LA Thieves. So some heavy hitters. Not super difficult. All winnable games for a team of that caliber. So excited to see them going forward. Next team up, Seattle Surge. Yeah, let's start it off with you, Jay. What are you thinking about them so far, especially after this last match?
I like Seattle Surge, man. I like this roster, man. Obviously, the series versus OpTic Texas is not what they wanted, but if you think about how they played last week, it's everything that they needed to show. It was a great respawn work, great search and destroy work, and then even in their controls they were putting on the show. I just feel like today versus OpTic Texas, they started off great. What was that map number 1? It was like 180 to 30 or something like that. They were dominating them on.
Yeah, they were getting cooked.
They were cooking them, but then they started letting a couple players slip on by. They started letting players get in 2 pieces in certain situations and couldn't easily hold setups, and that eventually lost them that. Then they get to the Karachi search and destroy, just getting picked apart. Like Shotzi was doing exactly what Shotzi does. Pop a smoke grenade. Let's get freaky. We shut you guys down that coop. Cool. We got red control. They just picked them apart when it came to that search and destroy. They did what they needed to do when it came to the map 3, but overall, in the series versus OpTic today, OpTic just outclassed them. When it came to positioning, they looked like they were a step ahead when in certain situations. And for me, I think the Seattle Surge roster, hold on, give me a second. I think the Seattle Surge roster is a great team, and they're only going to build from it. A team like OpTic Texas is not one to be mad about, like when you're losing this roster, losing to this roster. And I feel like with this team that they have, with the leadership of Illy and RCDs, with that championship mentality and Hook, who I feel like he's been dominant in this game. He kind of had a slow series here, but that's because he's probably trying too hard. You know, that revenge game, and sometimes plays out good, but for some, in this instance, it did not. Just a tough matchup for them today. I still think they're a great team that could be top 6 consistent all year.
I mean, that was a sweet revenge game for Rambo, Hook.
Yeah.
I mean, for Illy, and I mean, I guess RC's from way back, right? So, but either way, I think they're still in that bubble. I mean, I'm looking at the teams, like I think it's like, yeah, them, New York, FaZe, OpTic Texas, Toronto Ultra. Like I put them in that class of elite. I mean, if you kill Kenny a ticket, you win map 1.
Yeah, 100%.
Totally different series. I mean, even still, let's say you lose that S&D, you're up 2-1, forced into game 5. Seattle probably ain't losing 2 search and destroys in a lot of series. You know what I mean? It's a what if at the end of the day, but Seattle Surge are a very good team. Played another very good team, and they lose it. Very narrow map 1. They had the lead. Search and destroy. Like you said, I mean, Shotzi was out there doing his thing. They had some really good strats. I mean, they were going over towards Cafe a few times, and they ended up baiting them, sending a bomb over towards Cube. Once you get a lead, you can play with it, especially on a map like Karachi. So I just thought OpTic were better suited for that map, especially the way they approached it. But I still really like Surge, man. I think that they are a dark horse for a tournament. I think they can compete with everybody. And their upcoming schedule, let's see. I just think they're not weak anywhere. Like they're pretty much good at every mode, and they have good players across the board.
And that's what makes a good team, man. Because if you're in the beginning of the year, obviously, when you're starting off a year, you want to be good at respawns. That's all you're practicing. But the fact that they're also as consistent as they are in respawns and search and destroy, even though they did fall short today, like that's what makes a good team, because you're well-rounded. You can never get caught slipping on any of these modes, going into a map or mode where you're sitting there like, all right, we're probably going to lose this. Like, nah, they don't have that, at least right now. They are one of those teams that's greatly well-rounded, and that's due to probably the guy that's working the whole damn thing, and that's Rambo Ray. What a great leader. He obviously taught us how to play COD, so he's doing great work with those young guys over there.
All right, so they got FaZe. That's an interesting game. That is tomorrow. See if Surge can put on a battle against them. Yeah, that's a really good game.
Oh shit, they got some tough matches this week. OpTic Texas FaZe. Okay.
Yep. And next team we'll talk about. Let's talk about OpTic Texas. They have that first series where round 11 cannot happen. And then obviously they bounce back and they get 2 big victories today. The biggest one so far versus the Seattle Surge, where everybody looked good. And Pred AG, the guy people were rumblings in the background saying needs to play the game a little bit better. Payless for kills, whatever. He put a lot to sleep today by saying like stop talking about me. I'm a fry. If y'all remember in the interview, Jay, you remember he talked about it. He was like, people forget. He's like, people forgot. Like, I'm on OpTic. Like, people forget what we're all capable of. And boy, oh boy, did they need that. I mean, I think it's a perfect storm for this team if they can play this consistently, because you got Kenny, who he's the closer. I called him that on the desk. He's going to make those types of plays for them, get them out of bad spots, you know? And you got Pred, who can just take over a series. And then Shotzi and Dashy, who we know what they're capable of. And Shotzi even said himself, he didn't have to do much today. Like, Pred and the rest of the guys were going off. They looked really good, man.
Nah, I love this team, bro. I love this team, man. Obviously, the more that they play, the more difficult they're going to be able to beat, like, and the more chemistry they're going to be able to develop, because you saw it on full display today. Shotzi, I could break down everybody's role. Shotzi's the movement king. Like, he's the guy who's going to maneuver around the map, stall time.
He's straight up objective now.
It's like, yeah, like, I'm on this point. Y'all slay around me. You got Pred, who's Mr. Off Angle, bro. I've never seen a guy put himself in so many more off angles in my life, and it works out to perfection for him. Just laying down in different cracks, laying down in different positions, standing up, crouching in certain positions. Like, he has it all down packed, and that's probably due to the fact that he's been able to play the game a lot more. Because remember, that visa issue thing was always on the back of his mind, but ever since that got cleared, my boy's been on his grind, and it definitely showed today. But in my opinion, bro, no bull, I think Kenny is playing the best I've seen him play in quite some time, bro. This game is literally meant for Mr. Kenny.
It is.
Because what he does for the roster, don't matter if he's picking up a rival 9, don't matter if the MCW is his reaction time, his snapper, everything is on point for Quavo Ken. So the fact that you got that guy who's doing all the thinking, or majority of the thinking, setting up plays for his teammates, where you have Shotzi who's hitting routes to set up those plays, and then you got your 2 slayers who dominated in today's series, both basically 1.3s, and Dashy and Pred. They made that one look easy. That's why this team is going to be so damn scary, bro, because they're going to be good at respawn. And if they can figure out their search and destroy, without question, this team is going to be ready for whoever this year.
I mean, I totally agree. Let's look at their schedule. They got Royal Ravens. They got Miami Heretics. They got Atlanta FaZe. Oh, my God.
Okay.
That's the last match of this split is them versus Atlanta, and likely comes down to, like, oh my God, like, whoever wins that is going to be the favorite probably for the event. Maybe Toronto, maybe, New York. But holy cow, this is a very star-studded roster, great talent, and they've seemingly put it together very early. The sky is the limit for OpTic Texas. I'm sure we will revisit some OpTic talks going forward. But the next team, New York Subliners, 2-0, getting by the skin of their teeth in 2 series so far, Jay. 2 absolute bangers. Game 5, Search and Destroy looks unbelievable on the side of NYSL. These guys just can't lose it, man. They can't lose S&D.
They just do what they do, man. You know, that world championship mentality is just seeping through their veins. You're asking for someone to step up, and there's always at least a guy that steps up on this team. Hydra was always the guy, but so far this year, Sibs made the answer. Skies had an insane series last week. You also have Kismet, who's the bulldog. He's always going to make plays in Search and Destroy. So these guys were a week late to practice, and they came back, and they're instantly caught right back up to be one of the top 3 teams. So I can only imagine with more time underneath their belt how they're going to be able to polish that a little bit more, get a little bit more better. Obviously, the series versus LAG,
Hydra's still the best.
Never won a series to be that close, but yeah, Hydra is without question still the best player in the game. That guy is gross.
He's still the best player in the game. I mean, you called it last year in the middle of the year. Like, the guy is still the best player in the game. Sib's a shooter, bro. I see all these people, bro. Like I didn't understand why they made the roster change. So I didn't think they need to, but at the same time, like, he's not gonna make it worse. No. Like, he's got a straight beamer. He's gonna
give you more consistent slaying, and that's what he's been bringing to this team ever since he joined. More consistent slaying. I'm
interested to see them go up against some of the top teams again as the season progresses. This is a team that, they like. Kismet is just so sound, like, as a player. Some of the plays he makes, like, I'm thinking about that Karachi where Skies ends up getting the ace, but it was like all Kismet, bro. Like, there's so many situations where I watch him make plays. I'm like, dude, he makes the game hella easy. Like, seriously, he really does. I just love this roster, man, and the vibes that they have. And why do people keep giving them a chip on their shoulder? Like, the coaches poll had them in B or C. What are we doing here, man? Like,
it's because they were the late to practice for a week.
I don't care. Like, it's the world champs. They won 5-0 in the world championship final. Like, they are them, and regardless, when you get a team like that, like they're gonna make stuff happen. So for
I
New
just think
York,
I feel like this team, no bullshit in it. I feel like this team needs a little bit more respect on their name. Like
they
when you
still don't
talk
have
about
it. You know what I'm
OpTic,
saying?
yeah, when you talk about OpTic, everybody's like, "Oh, whoa, whoa." You talk about Atlanta FaZe, whoa, whoa, whoa. You talk about New York, everybody's like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's
No,
a
they're
different
just kind of like,
tone.
yeah, New York's pretty good. They clutched up.
Yeah, it's a different tone.
No,
But
they're
nah, they need to get some more
disgusting. Like
respect,
legit.
bro. They
Like
need
the
some more
players,
respect.
those players are as good as your favorite team. Like they are.
Mhm.
Like if not better. Like they are. They're nasty. And they got Vegas Legion tomorrow at 4:30, or today if you're watching this on VOD, which most of you are. Then they have after that they have Minnesota Rokkr, Los Angeles Thieves, and Toronto Ultra and Boston Breach. They got a lot of games left.
Okay.
Seemingly getting their.
How many games did they play in the split?
You
7
play
now?
7 in this split. This
Okay,
split,
okay.
yeah, it's different. All right, so New York looking good. Let's move on. Atlanta FaZe. I mean,
What is there to talk about, bro? Like, what is there to talk about?
business as usual. That first
Like,
series versus
yeah.
Boston was pretty close,
Yeah,
but
that was scary. All
day
good
one
though.
just had close games. Like, it was just
Yeah.
close. And then I mean, the next series, like what we talk about, 3-0. I'm simp. Like
See ya. Yo, wait, hold on. You said Hydra is the best of the game? That guy Sip is making that case
it's
to
still
be one
Hydra,
of the
but
best players
yeah,
in the game
if he
again,
does
man.
this all split, I mean,
He been
that's
frying.
Jordan.
He's been frying.
Yeah, he's fine. I mean,
He's been
you put dead
frying.
silence on that guy. Draza, the addition of Draza to this team, I just like it a lot. I think he fits the mold well. He grinds. He never complains. And it's something that FaZe has had problems with in the past, at least vocally, like showing they're displeased with the game or like some facets of it. It seems like they actually kind of like this game, which is very scary for the competition and good for Atlanta FaZe. And as you know, that silence and the way this game plays, red dot on your AR, sub's pretty good. It's not cheesy cross map. Like you really have to have the fundies down, right? You have to have awareness. You have to be a good Call of Duty player. Those things have to be on point. Red dots on the mini map. You have to know what's going on, and FaZe has all of that.
Yeah, I feel like with the addition of Draza, like they now have more of that. How are we gonna outsmart you in this situation aspect instead of just we're just gonna bum rush through this door, use our talent to get a 4-piece and break kill. Nah, I feel like with Draza on the team, there's more structure when it comes to their respawn game modes, and then obviously for Search and Destroy, they're going to have to develop. I know it's a core 3, but whenever you're making a change to a roster, you're now gonna put someone in a new position where they're going to be comfortable, and if they're not comfortable, you have to make the adjustment. So Draza on this team, eventually they're going to be a lot better at Search and Destroy. I just feel like this team right now is more dominant in the respawns than they are in S&D.
I've noticed that.
Scary to say.
Yeah, I know. I've noticed that they're getting rid of Terminal Hardpoint like every series and stuff. It's fine, but
it's because that's not really like one of those maps where you can use your talent to break a hill.
No, I
because
know.
if you're spawning on the bad side, you're going to get mowed down. So we can't have that. We need our SMGs to be playing SMG maps, not going up against ARs, camping in corners, camping top threes.
We'll see how that develops if they play like a really good Karachi or Skid Row team or something like of that nature. But Atlanta FaZe so far have showed us nothing really to worry about. The Tiny Terrors making plays early in the S&D, leaving their mark. I mean, we've seen some aces. We've seen a ton of first bloods. We've seen Abizi not be afraid to go in first, and Simp dropping 40 kills. So FaZe look really good. We haven't even had to see Celium pop off yet, I don't think.
No, but the crazy thing is, like, with this game and with how much dead time you have in respawns, depending on how your setup is, like, Celium is probably going to be dropping 1.3, 1.4s, but that's with him going 19 and 13. It's nothing crazy, you know? It's a lot more relaxed out of MC.
We haven't seen a sub base from FaZe, huh?
Yeah,
I'd be banned. I would be banning that. I'd be banning
I'm not playing that versus them. Like, you gotta. Well, no snaking. You might. Who knows?
All right, moving on. So they're gonna have Seattle Surge. That's a banger, potentially. Then they have LAG. Then they have Vegas Legion. Then they have Roy Ravens, and then OpTic Texas. So they definitely have a schedule that can land them the #1 seed. Something that they're gonna really want. We'll see how that plays out. Next up is Seattle Surge, and then it's sort of like they should be able to team diff their way up until that OpTic Texas match. So this is a really, really big game tomorrow. 6 p.m. Excited to see how that goes. All right, last thing to talk about is the Heretics. Vamos, baby. I mean, they haven't had the hardest competition, as you mentioned, but 6-1 map count. They're dominant at Invasion. And everybody has had their moment. Vickle with the most damage in Series 1. I mean, Journey had a crazy performance inside the hill. or inside of the control point, and then we saw Lucky in the S&D. We saw Metals in the respawns today, 3 and 4. Just everybody's had their moment, and they're having a ton of fun. Like, what are your thoughts on them, and where? After you tell me your thoughts on them, tell me where you think they stand amongst this leaderboard.
So my thoughts on this roster, I enjoy it. Obviously, these are guys who've been fighting to get to this level again for about 3 to 4 years, and they stayed side by side with it. They're trusting into their system and how they played, and knew that we will be able to take this to the top and showcase what our abilities are. So far, they've done it. They're 2-0 so far, but like you said, not really the toughest competition. The only thing that scares me with this team is when they are playing against that tough competition and they have to face some real adversity, because they had some adversity today. They were down a couple rounds and that's destroyed. They slowly fought back and they won that, and then they went to a control where it was going back and forth. It got scary at the A point, got scary at the B point, but they were able to clutch up, secure that defense in that round number 5. I feel like this team is great when it comes to that aspect, but as the season goes on and people start to understand how these guys play, and when things don't start going the right way versus some of these top teams, I feel like they will slowly start to degress, and we might even see an Eric Boom come in, because we've been hearing a lot about
that. Oh my God, hold on. I gotta stop you right here. You're going way too far with this. Listen.
What? I'm just saying.
Heretics are 2-0, 6-1 map count.
I like the team.
What's to tell you that they won't just get better from here?
Because they're not really playing the toughest competition. The thing that I take from their match,
you can say that about some other teams too.
No, the adversity that they showed today in the Search or Destroy, that's what I take. I feel like this team has the ability to use their teamwork to outclass some of these teams, but as the season goes forward, I don't think it's going to be as easy for them. I
agree it won't be as easy.
The risky plays that Metal and Journey, if they don't see success at those risky plays, like how did this team actually turn out? If their ARs are getting shut down with Lucky and Vico, especially if they have to go up against another tough AR duo, that's even more difficult for them.
If a BZ and Simp get shut down, they're going to lose too. You can say the if game for everybody. Listen, I think Heretics have looked incredible. They're hungry. They look really good in that series as well. They did lose that terminal by a big margin, but they're not the first team to get cooked on a terminal. We just saw it. We've seen it happen. It's like that game can get away from you. I don't know, man. I think they're going to get better. I honestly do. I think they're a top 8 team.
Everyone's going to get better for sure. It's only beginning of the year. Everyone is going to get better.
I just think that they're not. They're not.
Came out and lost this matchup today. What would you be saying about this roster?
They didn't lose it.
But if they did it, if they didn't come back in that Search and Destroy, we're down 0-2 and somehow, some way lost it 3-1. What would you be saying about this roster?
I mean, context matters, right? Like they were in these games, they end up losing them. Like it would be tough. Like I'd be like, I still think that they put up a decent performance, but them winning it says a lot about them and their mental, being able to stay in these games and make the right play.
I'm still in it. Yeah.
Listen, man, this is a team that it's not gonna. I mean, you said Eric Boom. I know that he is on the team, so potentially could be the roster swap there eventually, but. This is a team that's
way down the line.
That's not really looming over their heads. Like they're happy to just be here, right? Like these other guys, they've been in and out of teams on these other rosters. They, frustrations, teamed with each other before and haven't had success. Like this is a team that has had success in challengers, that had a ton of success in Black Ops 4, and then didn't get into the COD League. That felt like they should have been here. That aren't worried about getting dropped. Like the camaraderie is there. He said it in the interview. Like outside of the game, we're always together, right? Mm-hmm. That is going to play into their favor heavily. They're going to be extremely prepared for every single game. Like, I think they're going to get better, and I think they have potential to remain a top 8 team and flirt with some top 6, top 4 dark horse runs at times.
Actually, yeah. Nah, I agree, bro. I don't know what I was just saying. I completely agree with you. This team is hungry as hell.
You know what I mean?
Hell,
like
bro.
That plays a factor.
Against the wall, like that definitely plays a factor, bro. They finally got their shot, bro. They're gonna go out there and seize the moment, and so far they've done it. So I'm excited to see them continue to get better.
Yeah, and they haven't played against. I mean, like these pros haven't played against these guys. You know what I mean? So it's definitely given them a bit of an edge early on, but it's also just kind of too early to like say anything with complete conviction just yet.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
so I mean, you could be right, I could be right. But the feeling that I get, which means nothing, but the feeling that I get is that this team will remain a consistent, just like they were in BO4, a top 8 team that is a threat to upset some teams. All right, but moving on. Oh, that's all the teams.
Yeah.
Let's look at their upcoming schedule. So they have Rokkr tomorrow. It's obviously a very big game. How do you think that one goes?
I think, in my opinion, Heretics win. I think Heretics win 3-1. I'm pretty sure with like I said, with their backs against the wall today, they show what kind of team that they are. They're never gonna give up in any moment. So I feel like they're gonna be able to walk away with that W versus Minnesota tomorrow.
Yeah, that's gonna be very tough if Rokkr lose that series, man. Honestly, Heretics gonna be full of confidence. 2-0, 6-1. They're going in there. I think they take that. New York versus Vegas. We agree, right?
New York, yeah, no
New
question.
York, for sure. And then Atlanta versus Seattle. I don't know, bro.
No. I do know. I'm definitely going Atlanta in this scenario. No question. Like RCDs knows what he's going up against, and like knows going up against that SMG duo. And today we saw the likes of Seattle Surge not really slay with the best on the side of OpTic, and that was kind of a struggle for them today. So I'm definitely gonna go Atlanta.
I'm gonna go with Atlanta FaZe, but I'm just gonna say like Seattle.
They
Does
gonna
seem
fight.
like a team that's gonna lose.
They're not gonna roll over and die.
They're not gonna roll over 2 series in a row, let alone just in general. So I'm gonna go Heretics, New York, and Atlanta. Me and Jay are in agreement there with that last game. Oh, there's another game. Toronto. Toronto, forget it.
Yeah, come on, Pop. Money. My whole life said we got the same picks tomorrow, Pop.
Man, this might be a lightning day. I ain't gonna lie.
Well, I don't know, man. You know, New York, I pushed the limits. Vegas might be able to not choke a Surge and destroy tomorrow. We'll see about that. Heretics in Minnesota. If Minnesota can actually get a good hold on a hard point, you know,
that's the best match of the day.
That one should be pretty cool. Nah, I think Seattle FaZe without question, bro. You tripping?
Yeah, best match of the day with the second, but I think Miami Heretics and Rokkr has potential to be a better match, at least
than New York, New York, Vegas, or Toronto, Carolina. Yeah, no question.
All right, brother. There we go, man. I appreciate you joining me. You know, obviously we went live during the flank today. So for those of you live, we appreciate you guys rocking with us. You guys are the real ones.
Y'all are the real ones.
Yeah. And for those of you that are watching this in VOD format, we appreciate you as well. This will be up probably right before the game. So there you go. You can take those predictions, put them into your pick'ems.
No bullshit, chat. I'm putting this out right now. We're shooting an episode at least once a week. All right, once a week. If it's not recorded, it's on me. All right. I promise y'all, once a week. All right.
Well, we will get it done. This was a lot of fun, man. So I appreciate you guys. Hopefully, everybody watching this, you got some good takes that you can go and take and use in your own predictions, things like that. But we'll see you guys in the next episode. Have fun.